Hi friends, welcome to TakeThree Talks. I'm Estefi and I'm going to be your host. Today, I have my favorite, the one and only, my co-host, Meijun Kai, in the audience. Not in the audience, in the room.
Both, I'm in the audience and in the room.
And the crowd goes wild. Steffi from producing, please. Insert audio.
I love that.
Welcome to the room. I am really excited to have you. I think the last episode we did together was like quite a bit ago. It was called like Lessons and Learnings and something like that. And yeah, that feels like, I feel like a lifetime ago. So I think, let me ask you how you are doing. Then I'll tell the people what this episode's going to be about. And then we're going to get started by giving them a little bit of like an update of like, how are we doing? What have we been up to? Mm-hmm. And yeah, just like life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how are you today?
Today, thank you for asking. Thank you for that beautiful intro, by the way. I love that. Today I'm feeling not bad, but not amazing. I just like you, juggling a lot, personal to TakeThree studio, to TakeThree uni, to our digital product that we're releasing soon, and our travels and plans, and just a lot happening. So I feel like I'm trying to keep my own personal boat afloat. Sometimes some days are easier, some days are a little bit tougher, but today I'm not bad. Today I'm feeling like a solid 6.5, 7 on the emotional side and mental side, and physically I'm not bad. Physically I'm 8. So physically I feel strong. And yeah, that's how I'm feeling. How about you? How are you feeling today?
Thank you for asking. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think that it's been like a roller coaster. Like just like the fact that I was out last week, like a lot of days, just really sick, like, and just really fatigued, like really tired and mentally overwhelmed and everything. And that good cry that I had on Wednesday, I'm feeling really good today. Like, just, yeah, I'm solid like 9. And that's really high for me, guys.
9.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard 9 before.
No, you've heard 9 before.
Like, since it's been a while since I've heard that you've
It's just been like
9.
3 weeks. It's been like more than 3 weeks, I feel like. It's just like, I just think that I've been juggling a lot, like you said, like personal and like the travel, and we'll give you guys the update, but just adulting, like, just, I can't even like say any other word. It's just been adulting. Like, I feel like since February, like, it's been like revision of the car and like not passing the test and changing the wheels, and then the laundry maintenance and changing the laundry amortiguadores, like, like the thing, the like
the suspension thing,
of the washing machine. And then it's like, I don't know, the breaking of the counter, and then thinking of that, and then like, the fact that the light has been out. So guys, we're recording this episode. We were going to postpone this episode, not because we don't love you and because we don't love this, but just because we felt so overwhelmed that I think that's what's been happening. The podcast just feels like less important, but to me it's so important. So I don't know why, but etc. I'm working on that. But there's no light right now, so that's why we're recording now, because we're like, there's nothing else we can do but clean the house or record the podcast. So I was like, okay, Meijun, are you up to, like, let's go? Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, let's go.
Let's do it. Let's get in that mindset.
He even set up cameras around, and I was like, okay, let me just like go with it. I know I'm like really like, I'm not sure about that, but like, let me just go with it, because that way like it'll be his space too, and like that way like he'll have like energy to put into this, because we're both bummed at the fact that we can't like do our own tasks, so you just like kind of like learn and do. But yeah, so there's been like the lights being gone, and then working on TMI has been awesome, but that's also really challenging because so TMI is Too Many Ideas. It's our creative vitamins collection for Too Many Ideas, and we've been working on that. And that's been so challenging too, because we have to record the episode, like record the videos. Before that, we have to do the presentations. And it's not that Meijun and Estefi separately can't do the actual grunt work. Like we can do the work, but learning to communicate and hold that space for Meijun and Estefi from creation at the same time as you're holding space for Meijun and Estefi from like, okay, we have to spend X amount of money on washing machine suspension.
And changing all of our 4 tires.
Oh, and also like going to the mechanic in order to like, get all your stuff figured out. Like, so it's just like I feel like it's just been like that, like back to back, back to back, back to back. And then the time came to unlock like visa work for the trip. And that also kind of like created this this whole other like I think just channel of like this river in us that hasn't been open in a long time, because the only place we've traveled to has been Jamaica or to places where we don't need visas. So it's like unlocked this other river in our like land, and we already had so many rivers flowing that it's like that's why we had been postponing it for so long in a way. But once it was time to open it, the water came down like full force. And like, even though I'm not drowning in it, it has definitely felt like, like that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think that the river analogy is a really good visual, because I also feel like that. There's a lot of little rivers and streams flowing through, and you're just trying to keep up with it, You're trying to make sure that it's continuing to run, not too fast, not too slow, it doesn't dry up, doesn't overflow, and it also makes me think of, different train tracks running, and you're just making sure that everything is running smoothly. But sometimes it gets to a point where you're trying to keep up with the trains, and it's really hard. And I think that's what has been happening, but also we're still at the same time being able to manage and maintain. And I think that takes a lot of effort, more than it's a lot easier said than done, when you're actually in the trenches trying to make sure that you're juggling everything correctly and you're not dropping the ball in any aspect of our responsibilities and what we have to get done, from the personal to the work to trying to make money to planning for visa for the trip, making sure we have our itinerary correctly done, and all that stuff, and like just paying for our expenses for the car, and like what are our monthly expenses that we have to cover, and all of that. It's a lot, and it's so easy to forget month after month how much needs to be juggled. So I just wanted to share that it's a great analogy to visualize, because that's exactly how I'm feeling. It's like I'm afloat, my boat is afloat, but it's just like, wow, like if I could just lay down, do nothing, have no responsibilities, that would be awesome. I wish I could be Guillermo right now, just laying down. All I have to worry about is eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, making sure I go out for walks, take a dump, pee, and go back to sleep, and that's it.
Something that maybe can help you is like thinking that maybe in your afterlife you're gonna come back as a dog. So you'll just work as a dog this life and then trust that maybe in your afterlife you're going to come back exactly as Guillermo with some awesome ass parents like us. So caveat, Guillermo's 8th birthday was yesterday, June 20th. And I'm just so happy and proud to have him in my life. This morning, you guys, oh my God, I woke up and Guillermo was literally in the bed with me, of course with Meijun, but on the pillow with me. His head was just like so perfectly like put like under my chin, and he just like, oh my gosh, just like was like warm and like soft, and like his legs were just like straight. Oh my gosh. Like dog parents out there, you know, those moments, those mornings when you catch yourself and they're like just cuddling you so perfectly, and they're still awake and they're still asleep but you're slightly awake, that you can just take in all of these moments. Wow. I like literally tapped Meijun on the chest hoping he would wake up, and then I literally like did the little signs to like, you know, like snap a picture, you know, with your index finger. And I was just hoping he would like snap some pictures of me, because
I have the cutest picture.
yeah, I have the cutest pictures of him sleeping with the dogs. So I'm just pumped to see that photo shoot this morning. That was a little side tangent. And I love that we're still in the intro.
Oh yeah.
But we kind of give you guys an idea of what we're also going to talk about in this episode. So so far we've told you about our little catch up and how we're doing. Personally, I'm doing like a 9. I'm really excited to go see friends tonight, in terms of like meet up and do ceramics and hang out. And we've been doing these little like monthly gatherings with these friends, and we get to meet new people and have vulnerable conversations and artsy conversations. So yeah, in terms of my physical, I feel like I have some energy. I would say that maybe physically I'm feeling like a 7. And like emotionally and mentally I'm feeling like emotionally feeling like a 9, physically like a 7, and then mentally I would say like an 8.75. Yeah.
Nice.
There's like an extra like, you know, little tax for like just mind anxieties. But I think I'm doing good. So how are you guys? Spotify has this new thing where I can like put a poll and like a question box under the episode. So maybe I'll ask that, like, how are you doing? And you can respond in like numbers if you're feeling for that. I've never actually participated in any of those, but maybe it's interesting, you know. Most people use Spotify now. Ease. I don't. But okay, so welcome to this episode. Really excited to get you here. Really excited to have you here. Thank you, Meijun, for being here. Today we're going to talk about, it's an episode called, well, you've seen the title, right? So Confessions of a Creativepreneur, Creative Confessions. I guess I'm still toying with the title, so you would know now what I've chosen. But it's all about a little bit of a confessional of the things that we've learned as creativepreneurs, as creatives, and we want to make this into a series and almost also talk about like our client stories and like, you know, the really dramatic projects that we maybe had that we've never talked about, and like also talk about our relationship as like kind of creativepreneurs together and how we work together. Just like turn it into a confessional series. I think it could be really nice. So yeah, this is episode numero 1. Thank you, Guillermo, for your input. I think you agree with that. So now we're gonna catch you up on things we've been struggling with in terms of being honest about how has it been the past 4 years that 5 years now that we've been running TakeThree, being able to co-create together. How has been our journey in like co-creation and collaboration of like, you know, coming up with ideas and then turning them into projects. I think with this era that we are right now, personally, you and I, and like seeing TMI, too many ideas, our creative vitamins finally be out and our advice library be out, and like knowing what the second product will be, knowing that we already have basically created the third and the fourth product, like just talking a little bit about that in a retrospective kind of way, you know, not trying to take 3 hours here so we don't have to go into everything again. This is going to become a series, but just giving them a little bit of that understanding, and then I want to share a little bit of us, the reality of us having too many ideas. Like you and I have a lot of ideas, especially you. I think you are constantly a well of ideas, and part of like our work has been like learning like when do we put time into our ideas, when do we, you know, take time to digest our ideas, like how do we work together on that, how does it feel for each other, sometimes being really scared of each other's ideas, and how do we like talk each other through that. even, you know, the cameras today in this episode. Like, that's something that was an idea of yours, and it would have scared me. And Estefi maybe from 2 years ago wouldn't have had the tools to go through that. So just sharing some of that. And then trust, right? Talking a little bit about trust. Of course, something that we are all constantly working on. And if you're thinking that you're still not working on the trust within yourself, within your relationship, with others, with your partners, with your friends, then you're probably just lying to yourself or not being aware. And then talk just slightly about roles and boundaries and how we manage that. So I think this is going to be a really nice episode, a really fun episode to listen to and learn some tips and tricks, and also for us to like dive deeper, and hopefully Meijun and Estefi from the future can be like, wow, like I always look back to our therapy episode, and I always, it kind of felt like a little bit of a milestone to be able to talk about it. So this feels a little bit like I'm popping champagne and like, you know, cheersing both of us and our past and our present and our future self. So thank you for being here, and yeah, let's get chatting.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk about all of those topics and talking points that you just mentioned, because I didn't come into this episode prepared at all, because I wanted it to feel as raw and as natural as possible, almost like a therapy session between the both of us. Because I think that we're at the stage in our relationship, both professionally and as, you know, couples, we're at the stage where we can have these conversations very vulnerably and very raw, you know. So I'm very excited, because I don't think that we don't need to filter anything between each other in these conversations.
It's like a safe space.
Very safe space, yeah. And it feels like that. And I think the first thing that I wanted to say was, I wanted to give both of us a pat on the back, because there has been so much growth between us, and also as individuals and as creatives and as creativepreneurs. Because, as you said, you've hinted at it, Meijun or Estefi from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we just got to Ecuador in 2019. It was a challenge to work, not necessarily like work together, but in terms of our communication and our ability to rely on each other, trust each other completely, it was a work in progress.
But also, like, I think that's something that I want to give us like context into, is the fact that in 2019 we came into the business into meaningfully making a living. That's how we kind of came into this, not into the business. Like, that's like the wrong word. We meaningfully came into, you know, wanting to make a living out of our creativity as two individual creatives with very two different styles, with very two different skill sets, with very two different schoolings in a way, even though we had gone to Pratt. So in college, we never actually had classes together. Like, we had typography class together, and then we've had
other electives.
No, the internship class. And like acting. We had acting class together. Yeah. Acting is what like made me fall in love with you. Yeah, that class really that class really like we had to make, just side tangent, I promise it's worth it, it's juicy. We had to do a whole theater skit on these guy and a girl that falls in love with each other. and nobody understood like why our chemistry was so good. This was because we had like kissed and made out with before. But yeah, I was already so in love with him. I just couldn't admit it to myself. But okay, so back to the thought is that in 2019 we came in as like, you know, we had no experience of like really like what we had worked with each other on was Guillermo's Instagram account, and we had been successful at that. But we still had like little fights in here and there about like concepts and like captions and creative directions, and like we still sometimes would butt heads in terms of that. But it was never like high stakes. Like it was always like low stakes. In 2019, it felt more high stakes because it was actually our life. So when we came into developing TakeThree Studio, like actually landing the idea, building the website, building the brand, building the branding, not even the branding. We didn't even have like anything at that point, but building what we built, it was hard because it was two different people, but I think that there was a curiosity in wanting to work together and wanting to hear each other out in terms of like, oh, how do we implement this? How do we implement this there? And I would say that that continued to grow. Like we did, it was difficult, but we continued to grow in terms of sharing different like techniques and tools. And I was like, okay, at the agency, I used to do it this way. And like, you know, we used to manage the projects in this way. And this is how we used to do tasking. And this is how we used to manage our time and our capacity, and like building the Airtable back in the day. And like, we still have the Airtable, but like our clients and building the list or like all of that stuff. Like you were also bringing in stuff in terms of like the way that you guys were talking about in your creative teams, and like the way that you guys like
bounce ideas
of each other. Yeah, I'm like doing the things with the hands, but I like can't bring the word to the thought. Like bounce ideas of each other, and then with you guys had like worked in the Google Slides and adding comments and all of those processes. Like we were very eager to learn from each other. So I think that was something that really, really helped us, even though it was really hard to, you know, actually be able to put the words to the thoughts and like, hey, like, oh, what I actually meant was this, and like saying sorry, you know, like basic, like just human development things. Like that's what was really hard. Like the HR part of it, you know, like the human development part of it, because we were just two creatives. But because we were curious enough and willing to learn, it was much more open, I would say, even if we fail a lot of times. But I think in 2021, that's when things for me, would say, not took a turn to make it so dramatic, but it was different.
Yeah,
so
I think
you can say you wanted to share a thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the very beginning of, you know, what this whole episode is about, creative confessions, and, you know, for people who are listening to learn little nuggets of information about us. I think that going back to your point, the biggest thing that allowed us to develop and continue to evolve as individuals and as a creative duopreneur was that curiosity that you mentioned, and the open-mindedness to learn from each other, because we came from two different agencies in New York and we had different knowledge
and two different majors. Even though we both studied communications design, I was a graphic designer. I was like your creative like art director, advertising, like you were the idea people. I was like pixel pushing and like measuring with my rulers.
We had two different skill sets and two different like just structures of working that we were able to bring into TakeThree, and because of that curiosity, we were able to apply things and test things and test the processes and learn different tools from each other to see what works, what sticks, by working on client projects and seeing, you know, just what makes sense for us. And I think that was a lot of work, just to be completely straightforward. It was a lot of work to just apply those things and learn from our mistakes, and coming not from a place of I know better or you know better, but just like, okay, let's see how this works, you know? And I think that was part of the reason why we were able to you know, thrive in a way, you know?
Yeah. So I want to go into kind of like the scary part of like the being scared of each other's ideas, and like when pitching each other something or when learning each other's new tool, for example, like sharing like a different like framework, for example, like you used to work this way, I used to work this way. I remember how scary it was to be able to, whether it was an idea or a framework or a practice or something that you wanted to do, it was really scary to like, I think maybe scary is not necessarily the specific word that I want to use, but I felt it was really challenging to be able to um, remove your personal fears as like Estefi, like the person, you know, when listening to some of the ideas that you had, or listening to some of the, you know, I remember the first logo that we ever did, and you were like, no, Steffi, like we need to keep sketching, we need to keep like, you know, just keep sketching, keep putting it out there, like keep trying. And I was like, no, but like, you know, we need to be billable, and like we can't just spend all this time doing all this stuff, because that's what billability is. Like I learned this and la 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 la. And just like I remember feeling so scared and of the idea of just like and I went to school to keep sketching. I'm not trying to say like I don't I'm diminishing the craft, guys, right? I'm just saying that that was really scary, you know, to be like, oh my god, like how billable is all of this going to be, like how are we going to manage our time, how are we going to do this? I remember when I first wanted to do the website, I always wanted to start with Spanish and English, because I thought it was really important to have our content be in both languages. And at that time, it was really hard to have bilingual websites. So it was a lot of work to be able to put the content both in Spanish and English and code it and la la la. And I was like, no, Meijun, if we don't do it now, there's no way we're coming back to this. Like, I know how long it takes for a website to be redesigned. Like, I worked on a website development platforms team, and I know that once you publish a website page, or even if it's a whole website or one page, it's going to take your team, no matter if you're 1 or 1,500, 100 days, 100 hours, 100 million excuses to actually come back and do maintenance on the site. So I was like, no, we need to do this in Spanish and English. And I remember how scared you were of that, and like that commitment. Right? And like committing to making that much content, right? Or the first time that I pitched you about TMI, I remember it was November 2021, 2020,
around that time. But it was a while.
I think November
2021 maybe.
No, 2020. Yeah, because it was still in the pandemic and we still lived in the Airbnb. Because November 2021 we were living at Shanti. It was a month before we moved into our house.
Right.
So November 2020, that's when I first pitched you the idea of these creative vitamins, in a way, of Too Many Ideas. Not what Too Many Ideas actually is today, but the version of it that I had back then. And I remember how heartbreaking that weekend was for me. Do you remember that?
I believe I vaguely do.
Like, how hard it was for the both of us to like, for you to be like, Estefi, there's no energy in this tank. It's done. I must take a break. Like, I must stop. I can't do more episodes. I can't sit down to do more things. I can't like do a course or a product or a webinar or a workshop. I can't do any of it. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
But at the same time, you were still kind of like coming up with ideas on your own. So it was kind of exhausting. Do you remember? Like, and you just like laid on the floor at Samia. We stayed at this place called Samia Lodge. And you just laid on the floor and you're with your legs up on the wall and just passed out. And then I came and I laid next to you and we just passed out, and we woke up at like 6 p.m. that day. And it was like 11 when we got there. Do you remember?
Yeah, we were burnt out.
You were really burnt out.
I was
not. I think I was not listening to my body. I still had like mental and emotional juice. In a way.
Yeah.
Which is why I was able to keep going with the podcast, or, you know, TakeThree uni content or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, share it with people a little bit maybe. How does it feel to just feel scared of your partner's ideas, feel scared of your own ideas? How do you process that? Or like, what are some tools maybe, or just thoughts that you can share on that? Because I know that that's something that we struggle with constantly, you know, even when it comes down to the travels. For example, we're going to travel to Asia.
Yeah.
And just pitching you, for example, the idea of traveling for X number of months or X number of days, or you pitching me an idea of something. I think I'm much more open and much more wild in terms of like, yeah, let's just go fuck it. Impulsive. Maybe that's the word. I'm much more impulsive, but you're much more, even though you say like, that's why I don't understand why you sometimes say like, oh, I just don't think, because you're so thoughtful. So just share. Can you like speak, like share with us?
Sure. Yeah.
Share your vulnerable, tangent-full thoughts. I know that nobody prepped you.
Yeah. No, it's a lot. Like my there's a lot of thoughts in my mind right now, but
word vomit it, baby.
I think that just in terms of being scared of your partner's ideas or plans or things that is on their mind, I think it just dreams, it just really depends. It really depends on for me, the situation. Like, I don't know, I think as you said, I'm very thoughtful, but sometimes I don't think things through. Me as a person, my personality and the type of person I am not as impulsive, because I need to make sure that I fully process the thing that I'm going to get myself into, what I'm going to commit to, from, you know, my time to energy to money. I need to really know. I don't know if it has anything to do with my culture, my upbringing, you know, the fact that I'm, you know, Hakka Chinese, you know, always feeling like Hakka means guest, people in Chinese, and that type of upbringing, meaning like I'm always feeling like a guest somewhere else. I think that added to the fact that I need to make sure that I have that security. So if it's an idea that you have, or if it's something that you want to do, usually when you quote unquote pitch it to me, and I hate that you have to pitch everything to me because I can see how exhausting that is. What happens in my mind is that I need to, one, process what exactly you're talking about, or what exactly this idea is, or exactly what you need to do. And then I need to ask myself, like, is this something that I am comfortable with? You know, that in itself is you know, therapy work for me, because I'm a people pleaser, and I grew up as a people pleaser because of my upbringing, and I'm working on that, and I'm less of that person. I'm more able to process and share what I want, or if I don't want to do something, I think that I'm way better at doing that now, to the point that maybe sometimes it hurts you, you know. But now, to answer your question with all that background and that context and that word vomit, I think that whenever there is an idea, whether it's from me to you or from you to me, the thing that I want to say about that is, whether I'm scared or whether I'm excited about it, it's all about communication and being open, right? Being open meaning not being so impulsive or so quick to say yes or no. You know, that's something that I've learned, to not be just so quick to like give you an answer, and that the answer that I give you is, I love hearing this, thank you for sharing. However, before I give you an intentional answer, I need X amount of time to just think about it, and let me get back to you in X amount of time. I think that that's something that I've learned that I can continue to implement. Sometimes I do forget to do that, but that's something that at least gives you, my partner, the acknowledgement that I've heard you, that I have not shut down your idea, or I have not said no or yes, or have committed to anything, but I am giving it my attention and my time and my emotions to think about it, to see what I realistically want to do with this idea, whether it's you go on full steam ahead because you're more than capable, or oh, I would love to accompany you on this idea, you know. And I think that yes, it sounded so easy me saying it, but in those moments of when you are presented with something to make a decision on personally, it's really hard. Like, you don't want, because there's so many things that goes on in your head, or in my head, if I'm speaking from my perspective, that okay, like, I don't know yet, like, I don't feel like it right now, but maybe I feel like it later. I don't want to say no, I don't want to shut her down, because it's just not nice to have your partner shut down your idea, you know. But at the same time, I want to stay true to myself, you know. But what is true to myself? Like, I just need time to process, you know. So like, all of that happens in the span of the 20 seconds when you're looking at me, like, waiting for me to say something. So it's a lot of pressure, but not like pressure that you're intentionally putting on me, but the pressure that I'm putting on myself, you know. So just imagine, like, everything that, you know, like, we've lived together for like years now, you know, and we've lived together and we've worked together for years, and every day there's always like decision making between us, whether it's about an idea for a business, a content idea, or something that I want to record, something that you want to record, or something that you want to do. It's every single day there is something. Eating. Yeah, what do you want to eat today? There's always so many decisions, and I think that sometimes you just get decision paralysis, you know. Like, I remember you telling me, like, I don't want to make any more decisions. Can you just just choose? Can you just decide? Can you just lead? You know? And that's something that we're continuously working on. It's always going to be a work in progress. But those are like, I take those as little reminder moments versus like personal attacks of like, yeah, you're right. Like, we don't need to keep asking everything like each other's like opinions about every single thing. You know, if there's something that I want to do, I'll just be like, hey, Amor, I really want to go on a walk this, you know, to Antisana like next weekend. I'm more than capable of going by myself, but you know, if you want to join, I would love the company. But if you don't want to join, that's totally okay too, because, you know, like, I've already planned that I'm gonna go by myself, but I would love for you to accompany me. Yeah. Or, you know, just like that type of mindset is helpful. So, and applying that to our ideas as well is something that could work, or that has worked, in my opinion. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think that it definitely gets exhausting to pitch things, and I'm sure that other people struggle with this, like whether it's like having one of those bosses where you're constantly just like showing them like comp after comp after comp after comp, and you never get like good feedback on, or having like, I don't know, a husband that you're always like asking them to pick up their shit, you know, with like, that doesn't happen with us, thankfully. But I just do want to put a caveat that I think that even though it feels like we both have to make so many decisions about everything, like, everyone does. Everyone's life is like this. Like, we're not that special. And I really like that I heard about this on a podcast episode where this girl was talking about, like, I am not that special. And understanding that yes, we're special as human beings. Each one of us is special. Each one of our life matters. Each one of our lives is... Sorry, my computer just like locked. Okay, it's all good. That all of our, like, each one of our sparks, you know, belongs and is providing something for this earth at this moment, at this time. Yes. But with that said, also is that other people also struggle with other things, and that you're not that special in terms of like, oh, I went viral because I am me and like I am like the shit. No, I went viral because I'm relatable, and other people also struggle with that. You know, so like making that shift, I think helps as well when you're feeling so overwhelmed of like, oh my God, like our life gets so complicated because yes, we are juggling. Like, I think you said something about like how at the intro, you were saying something about how you're juggling multiple balls and you're making sure that none of them drop in terms of your responsibilities. Personally, I've changed the mindset into thinking about how can I let a ball down while still preserving the momentum of the other balls. Instead of thinking about like, oh, I'm going to drop a ball, I'm just going to be like, at this moment, this is getting challenging. Let me put one down so I can focus on these other ones. And that's been really helpful. But it doesn't mean that, like, for example, on Wednesday, I was like bawling shitless, and like completely lost all my tools because I was so overwhelmed about the paperwork and time and how fast time is going by. But coming back to the ideas, when you were saying about how maybe what's helpful is to like really first take time with yourself, with that idea, with that thought, with that plan, with that dream. What I like to do a lot is just like write it down or text it to myself. And then I am able to kind of offload it so I can digest it, offload it to digest it. And then I'm still thinking about it. And if I still want to do that with you by the time, for example, X amount of hours have gone by, then I'm like, hey, I wanted to tell you about this idea that I had, and I'd love your company on it. And it's actually, before I say that, is like, and of course, we learned this in therapy, guys, like, and personal therapies and couples therapy. But we've tried to make it our own now. But hey, I have this idea that I want to share with you. It's about the studio, or it's about uni, or it's about our personal life, or it's about the Asia trip, or it's about Guillermo, like, or it's about X, right? Like giving each other that context, even if it's to myself, for example, the same idea. Hey, Estefi, I have this thought. I talk to myself a lot, guys. It's okay. You should try it. Hey, Estefi, I have this idea about uni and I'm in the mindset of studio right now. I just write it down. Instead of like trying and trap myself into the whole loop, giving myself the context of what this idea, like what pocket this idea, what ball in a juggle, what ball category does this idea go under, allows me to be able to like, okay, on Friday I said I was going to do uni stuff, so on Friday I will do this. Does that make sense? Yeah, and I think that has really helped me put the like what our therapist called like the not now, what I called to our therapist the not now filter, in a way that's really compassionate, and it still gives my ideas or my thoughts or my projects or my dreams, as the impulsive person that always wants to constantly share, even with her friends, like, I'm like this with friends, like that's why I have uni, because I love giving people unasked for advice, and I'm just randomly sharing ideas with you. So yeah, that's kind of who I am, and like that's how I've been able to, even though sometimes my ideas, my dreams, my plan, my pitches scare my partner, I've been able to help myself by giving and applying like the not now filter, and giving myself like that text message to myself to like acknowledge still, because I think I spent a lot of time thinking that I was too much, or that my ideas were too much, or that my dreams were too much, or my plans were too much. And with this healing process of going softer with myself, and looking softer at myself and being softer with myself, I think giving just the space, even if it's just to write the thought down in an agenda, in my phone, in a text message, just like, I don't know, it just validates a little part of me that why not validate, like why not give a space to, when everything else seems like takes so much more priority. Yeah. So that's what I would say about like scary too many ideas.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that what you shared a lot of great insights and nuggets, that I've applied some to my life as well, and the way I work. And one of it is the not now filter. I know that you can apply that in every aspect of your life, I feel. And for me specifically, for you, it's about, okay, maybe not now. I don't need to bring this up now. I've also implemented some of that as well. And also to my workflow, knowing that I get distracted quite easily. Sometimes I, procrastinate. And when I'm working on something, on a specific context, I try my best to not now with specific things that I know that are going to distract me, like answering my phone or checking my messages, or taking on something completely different than what I'm focusing on, whether it's a client project or like a video that I'm editing, because I know that takes deep focus. So I really try to apply like that not now filter in my life. So I just want to like point that out. So great job for bringing that into our our life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that I wanted to touch upon is the idea of respecting that you and I are two individuals, and we each are always in our own context. So we have to respect the fact that if we want to bring something up to each other, we have to ask the partner, like, hey, I have something to talk to you about in this context. Do you have space to listen to that meaningfully? Right? And I think that that's something that works really well and has worked really well. And it causes less of the awkwardness that would happen when you just completely jump into it, assuming that your partner knows exactly what you're talking about. That's usually how our miscommunications or our headbutting like happens, when we're not as clear. I'm guilty of that. When we're not as clear with what we're saying or what we're asking or what our expectations are or what context we're talking about.
Oh, we're not listening. And we're just hearing.
Exactly. So all of that goes into this whole bucket of communication, and that's something that is such a big and simple word, so complicated, and it just takes a lot of intention to communicate really well, especially when you're not working alone. When you're working with a partner, it's just so crucial to be able to communicate as clearly as possible. And I'm saying this to you, but also to myself, because I know that we've gotten into so many like headbutting situations because of the nonchalantness in the communication, because we've worked with each other for so long, we assume we know what we're talking about. But you know what they say about assuming, right? You make an ass of you and me, and that still holds true to this. So I just wanted to like touch upon that a little bit, because that I think that's very important to mention.
Yeah, and I think that to go back into something that I hope that you can hear that. El gas. Dun, dun. I'm going to be going on El gas. Tell me you live in Ecuador without telling me you live in Ecuador.
That's true.
Okay, so side tangent. I wanted to say something regarding what you said, which was, even though, like, yes, when you're in a partnership, or you're in a dualpreneur, you're in a team, or whatever it is, yes, you have to pay attention a lot to your communication and your expectations and assumptions, and am I actually listening? Can I be meaningful? Can I be intentional about being present, etc., etc.? But I think the same thing would go if you are a freelancer or a solopreneur, because the light came back. Because even though you may be doing this alone, you still really need to, like, something that we like to say is like, understand that there are different roles and boundaries within your own setup, even if it's your own. So Meijun, you have to communicate with Meijun from Jamaica responsibilities, Meijun from China responsibilities, Meijun from Ecuador responsibilities, Meijun from studio responsibilities, Meijun from uni responsibilities. And I can go on and on and on about all the different contexts in your life, right? And because sometimes we just assume that, oh, I just do it myself, so I'll just like figure it out. And that's how you end up like basically overflowing your boat with water and like trying to like cross all the rivers at the same time, when all you can do is kayak through one of them at the same time. So the most important thing, I think, is like understanding that you need to communicate with yourself first. Because if you don't communicate with yourself first, if you don't understand, okay, what can I actually handle today? Who can I actually show up as today? Who do I need to show up as today in order for my project to be the most successful, for my idea to be actionable? How do I need to show up today in order to, I don't know, be the best version of me that can drive and not get in a car accident, right? Like, take the subway so that I'm present and I don't go like the other direction, or like, you know, miss it because I'm like tying my shoelaces for too long. So like all of those are like different little like parts of us that I think sometimes we don't acknowledge, and we don't acknowledge that those deserve to be looked at as roles and looked at as like boundaries that you need to respect and honor in order to be able to like actually meaningfully do shit. If not, we're literally running like chickens without heads and like trying to do sending a message at the same time as you're like doing like a bank transfer, at the same time as you're eating your sandwich, at the same time as you're like getting ready to prep Guillermo's lunch, at the same time as you're like, you know, looking at like talking to the guard because someone's out at the door delivering a package. It's like, how, like, you can't do all the things at the same time if all of the things deserve to be intentional. So understanding all the roles, your responsibilities that go into those ideas, and not just being like, oh, it's just an idea, so let me like act on it right now, or let me like pitch it to my boyfriend right now and let's go make that piece of content right now, when you haven't understood all the roles that will go into actually implementing any of this. Yeah. And if you don't honor that, then you go into it and like ends up being like a snowball. And that's what I think happened with us in like that 2021 part, where in the pandemic, in 2020, in 2019, TakeThree was growing and things were just happening. We didn't understand that we needed like a finance role, and like, you know, the joke that we have now that it's like, you know, TakeThree from Meijun from finance, Meijun from legal, Meijun from like accounting. That was not acknowledged when we first started. We just thought we were two creatives going in and doing this, and like maybe sending a few emails, maybe sending out a few invoices, but that didn't even like cross my mind. Yeah. So like understanding that in 2021, when you were so burnt out, and you were trying to come back, and I was like really struggling mental health was, but I still had so much energy and ideas, and I was still creating and showing up in the podcast and uni and etc. That's when it hit us, and we were like, okay, we need to learn to prioritize our time as personal people, individuals. We need time to go to the doctor. We need time to sleep. We need time to see friends. We need time to go on vacation. Even if you're not hitting X number of as many goals as like Meijun and Estefi from business development, you know, because Meijun and Estefi from life need to be able to take care of themselves. Yeah. So that's when like that switch happened. And that's when I say 2021 and 2022 for me were kind of the hardest, because it was really unlearning that I could do it all and that I could just like be everything every day and like have a session and then do brand development and then do a website development and then also see my cousin and then be burnt the fuck out. Yeah. You know, that's so true. That's when it was really hard, because it was all about unlearning. As much as I was learning, I needed to be like, I have energy, but today is not the day to do that task. And you cannot do that, because that is going to have repercussions. And even though you want to act so bad right now and go and record that, that will have repercussions. Right. You know? Yeah, that's so I think that's why it's so important to communicate with yourself first, and like understand the roles and understand like, actually, how can I bring this to life in the most meaningfully intentional way that won't be against myself.
That's so true. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
because hustle mindset kills you, man.
Yeah. And I think that it helps when you visualize it that way and come to an understanding with yourself. If you are a freelancer or a solopreneur, you're doing it if you're doing it all alone, is to really, really understand and ask yourself, what are the roles that I have to play for my business, right? What are all of those individual like Meijuns or individual Estefis that's needed? and really respecting that, because I think that by doing that, it's all a mind game at the end of the day. You've already set yourself up for success, because you know that you have all of these different hats to wear, and different days, as I mentioned from the very beginning of this recording, that every day is different. So today, I feel like Meijun from Creative is at 90%. So Meijun from Creative can show up. Let me tackle Meijun from Creative tasks. The next day, holy shit, like I'm so tired. But Meijun from Chef, Meijun from house cleaning, and Meijun from personal life feels like he has a lot of capacity today. So I'll tackle all of these tasks. So because we all have so many different things we're juggling, but even though we're one person, yes, like we have to, respect our time and our energy and really listen to our bodies. But when you kind of like are able to put on different hats, because it's like working a different side of the brain, it feels different. It feels like you're listening to yourself, but also you're quote unquote being productive in other areas, even if it's rest. Meijun from rest needs to show up today and be productive in that area. I need to rest. So that's Meijun that's showing up today. That is also honoring yourself, So I think that that's really awesome to kind of visualize.
But I think that it's really important to do it not only if you're a solopreneur running a business, because you just said this, like, and I think, for example, I can say, like, I'm not a mom, but for example, moms, once a child is born, it's almost like all you can do is your child. And if you don't remember that you do have a hat that's called human person that birthed this thing, human, right? Then you forget that you exist, and all of a sudden your child has grown up and you don't even know who you are. If, for example, I'm in a partnership, I'm your girlfriend, and I don't take a meaningful look at the fact that I have no hobbies. I'm not saying that I have no hobbies. I have hobbies. But was because I realized that I had no hobbies that I have hobbies now, And somehow we've ended up having similar hobbies. But the point is, if I don't take that meaningful action and that actual thought, like, wait. I'm not just this person's partner. My whole life role, my whole like existence is not just this one thing. Or like people are like, oh, I'm an architect, but they really like to play tennis. But they would never dare to say that they love tennis, or they start a conversation with like, oh, I love tennis. But because we've so been instructed to pick one thing or do one thing, or like just take care of one thing, or just do one thing, that we're like, okay, I'm just an architect, and I will never tell you that, oh, I actually really love going to like macrame classes, and I love tennis. I actually have like a tennis competition this weekend, and like, I have like, I love going to this like, ceramics things with my friends, and I love like going running, and I'm actually super into solo traveling and these books. But I feel like if we don't challenge ourselves to be like, okay, wait, I am not just put in this earth to, I don't know, just be a solopreneur business person, or just be a partner, or just be a mom, or just be this, then we're not able to actually like, I feel like, honor our humanity and honor the different like versions of ourselves that are allowed to exist, because like you said, like not every day you're the same person. I remember even when I was in New York, like, and I was working in like a regular job, I still felt differently every single day. And I was still like, there would be days where I would show up and like, it would be one of those best days where you show up to the office and all you're going to do is kind of like move your mouse around and hope like the PM and like the strategist doesn't like show up unexpectedly to like check for your progress. Even then, like you still had like days where you weren't like the most productive graphic design self, but your life wasn't like less meaningful, So I don't know. That was a little tangent that I wanted to go into about like, just like how people marry themselves maybe too much to only one thing, and like not explore their different hats, or honor the different contexts, or honor their ideas, because they're like, oh no, this one thing is just more important, and you don't even look for different roles in your life that could be meaningful. And because everything is productivity. focus, you know?
Yeah. And I think even if it's productivity, understanding that there are different contexts to productivity, there are different definitions to productivity that you can start to reframe and implement to your life. Like I mentioned,
I loved the Meijun from Restless to show up. Like that changed my Sunday.
You see, I think that by understanding your roles, by understanding your hats, your context, and different responsibilities, even if it's rest, Meijun from rest, you know, that will change your perspective on productivity and how you can be productive in different areas in different ways, you know? So I think that the word productivity, it can be very like toxic when you think of it as just very linear of one thing. Like I need to be billable to do XYZ every single day to be productive. And then marrying yourself and your self-worth to productivity, that is the toxicness.
Yeah. And it's
toxicity.
Also, it's actually something that we talked about in the creative, sorry to interrupt you, but it's something that we talked about in the creative in the creative vitamin, in the collection, in Too Many Ideas. It's like the different versions of your ROI, your return on investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
If like the only thing that you're thinking about is going to be like worth your investment, right, is money, or is, I don't know, how many times you go on vacation, or like an expensive vacation every year, maybe like, you know, you won't end up ever being fulfilled, you know? So understanding, or maybe giving yourself other reward systems as well, you know, like other ways of envisioning how you can feel, you know, productive, or how you can feel successful in a day. Like for me, that's been something that has been helpful, like in a day-to-day basis, instead of being like, how productive or how much did I accomplish today. I've been doing the thing that you do, like, what did I get to work on today? And just asking myself that at the end of the day, like, what did I get to do today? Instead of like, oh, how much did I accomplish today? Like just that little shift. Because if all I'm doing is like, oh, how much money did I make today, and the reality is $0, then I'm going to be depressed.
Failure.
You know, failure. Like, you're failed. Like, fired, girl. Like, go find like a coffee shop to work at. Like, go, like, quit. You know, like, but like that's not the reality. So that just made me think of that, like those little reward systems, and like how you're like measuring your success and your expectations and your productivity. You know. Like on Sundays, if your productive gas gets filled by how restful you were, like, did you touch nature? Did you read? Did you take a nap? Did you see a family member? Like, that recharged you, right? Like, that can be kind of like makes you feel really happy and fulfilled. And I think playing those little games is really nice. And I like it. It makes adulting easier.
It does. It's, and you're just, at the end of the day, you know, everything that we're sharing with you here, it's for you to be able to, like, you know, see, like, as you just mentioned, see different ways of doing things and how you can apply little things into your own life and into your own day to day, so that you feel like you have, quote unquote, accomplished more, you know, whether that accomplishment is through rest or through productivity in, like, you know, getting your finances in check, or doing your budget today, or whatever that task is, or whatever that specific role is for that hat that you have to wear. I think that honoring that hat that you can wear that day, today, and that being your return on your investment, that being your level of success by accomplishing that role, or whatever that task is for that role, I think it helps with you feeling more fulfilled as an individual, you know, and
organized, and like you're not overly spending your time on just like worrying. But yeah, I think like again, it's like it's a really a little balance. And I just wanted to come in here today and share some of our ideas, share some of our thoughts in terms of just how we balance or how we work through our scariness, or like, being scared with each other and each other's ideas or dreams or plans. I also wanted to wrap up, I wanted to ask you a final kind of, maybe not rapid fire as much, but just like maybe some rapid fire thoughts on your end, and maybe some rapid fire thoughts on my end. Of if you were to give someone advice, and it's someone who maybe at this moment is working on a specific thing, but they have multiple ideas or multiple avenues that they want to explore, because they were like us, like, working on their corporate jobs maybe, or they're working the regular jobs or their independent jobs that they've worked on for a long time, but they've been wanting to dabble or wanting to explore some of their ideas, maybe like land some of their ideas and be like, how do I take that first step? How do I start without necessarily like quitting my job and like starting anew, because it's really scary, what is like your main advice that you would share in terms of like being able to explore your ideas and explore all of these dreams that you have without it being like, okay, I am black and white, either 100% committing to this and like developing all of this and like quitting my job and going for all the things, or being completely on the other opposite where it's like completely action paralysis, inaction paralysis, and you're just like staring at a blank page before you, looking at, como es the song?
Looking at the dirty window, sun illuminate the words that you could not find.
Something in mid-distance, the clouds are almost tasted. Release your inhibitions, feel their weight on your skin.
No one else can feel it for you, only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips.
Ay, qué linda que es esa canción. But yeah, what would you tell them?
Sounds like my context had just switched.
I would tell them, I would say that just really quickly without getting into too much, because I think that, we've already been talking about this for an hour. I would say that my first thing would be to have an understanding of your budget and just sit down with yourself first. Just look at the numbers, because that's not emotion. So that would be like the first task that would be really scary for me, but that would liberate me, just to understand, like, can I even quit this job? Like, can I, like, what do I even have? Like, do I have a bunch of debt? Like, do I have like a bunch of responsibilities, children, and monthly expenses that are unwaivable, mortgages, like loans, stuff like that. Like, just to understand almost like the realistic living parameters of this shelf life, like of this human being. That would be the first thing that I would suggest. And then from there, I would say, write everything down. Just vomit. Like, word vomit everything that is in your dreams. Like, whether it's, I'm really good at making cookies and like carrot cakes, and also I'm really good at interior design, and also I'm really good at like crafts and arts, and like I'm also really good at like energy therapies, I'm also really good, and just like write down everything. The like, especially if right now you're in the positive thing of like, I can do this and 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 I can do this. Just write everything you can do. And if you're in the opposite end of like, oh my God, I bring nothing to the table, I'm going to completely always forever be in corporate, then write down all the things you never want to do. Like, all the things you never want to do. Like, I never want to do a banner ad ever in my life. I know you're not supposed to say never, but I would write that shit down right now, So those are the things that I would say. End of my advice.
Yeah. I think those are very valid. I think those are things that,
and you can't repeat mine.
Yeah, those are things that people can implement for sure. I think for me, I would say the thing that we did, or that I did, and that we did together, that was really helpful, was it kind of like ties in with writing it down and putting everything down on paper. But being more specific to what exactly you're writing, I would say my advice would be answer the question of what do I want to do? Like, what would I love to wake up to do? Like, what would I be excited to do waking up? Right? What are some of those things? That would be one of the questions I would ask myself. And you can write that down too. For me, I remember in 2019, I wrote down, I love making content, not necessarily for others.
I love dogs.
I love dogs. I love making content. I love making funny content. I love humor. I love helping people, So what are those things that you like waking up doing? Then the other question would be, what am I good at? Really tapping into what are those things that you are good at, that you feel comes natural, And for example, for me was table tennis. The other one was, socializing with people. The other thing was, being around dogs. The other thing was also creating content. I was, I had the skill set to do that. So I was really good at that. I was also really good at ideas and sharing advice. So those are all the things that, that I wrote down that I was really good at, that I loved waking up doing. So those things, and then you kind of find the Venn diagram and see all those things kind of connect. That led to some of the things that we do now today, right? So I think in a way you are, by answering those questions, you are thoughtfully and meaningfully manifesting. That word is such a, it's such a big word, but that I think is active and intentional manifesting by really writing those things down. At least
I would say, instead of like manifesting, at least you're providing yourself with clarity.
Yeah, and you're actually not letting it just float around your head or in the clouds,
or in anxious thoughts, or it feels like it's like an intrusive thought. Instead of it being an intrusive thought, it could be a well taken care of idea.
Yeah, exactly. You're cementing it by,
or allowing it, not even cementing it, because that feels really scary.
True.
Like really for like forever.
But
you're like, I like to think of it as like you're planting it.
Yeah. Right. You're
just planting it in the
it.
ground.
Yeah.
Like, have you guys ever planted? Have you planted ever something?
Yeah.
But you've seen me plant at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you put something in the ground, like, you don't know if it's going to come out. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know if it's going to die, if it's going to, like, do good, if it's going to give you fruits, if it's going to bloom, if it's not. Like, but you still believe in it. You still plant it. You still water it. You still show up for it. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's what I try to do with my existence in general. Because sometimes I'm like, I'm just a little seed in the dirt. And sometimes I'm a beautiful plant with flowers.
Yeah.
But with your ideas, with your thoughts, with your scare, with your intrusive thoughts, with your projects, I think it's a great advice, a great piece of advice is to plant it, and like ask yourself, like, what would make me as like a little planty want to wake up and like put my little flowers out to get sun? What is it that would make me really happy, like you said? And what is it that I'm good at? Right? What is it that I provide? Do I provide sweet tangerines? Do I provide flowers? Do I provide wind? Do I provide shade? Right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Absolutely. So I think that would be like my first like biggest advice is to have that clarity with yourself and plant that seed. Because from there, without going into too much detail, because I know we're wrapping up, from there, other steps come in and other pieces of the puzzle start to kind of come into place, right? From, asking yourself, like, what is actually realistic now from this? How can I make a living out of this? Or how can I actually completely, wholeheartedly show up for this? How can I water this correctly? Can I water this? Is it waterable? So all of those questions come after.
Yeah. Can I find a group of friends that also does this? Can this become my hobby?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to make you money. You can keep your full-time job still and find a group where you, like, I don't know, like you really want to get into rug tufting.
Yeah.
Maybe you find a workshop.
Right.
And you start making friends and you start seeing what tools would you need, seeing what colors you like, seeing what the investment looks like. But you start by playing.
Yeah, exactly. You start by playing and exploring.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, like, that the last thing is like, for us, when we were like writing all of these things down, I remember one of the things that we wrote down was like storytelling, brand storytelling, right? Being able to help, you know, ourselves or whether help clients tell their stories. And that's how our services came to life, you know, from being able to look at all the stuff that we wrote down, be okay, can we make money from this? Okay, yeah, let's focus on brand development. Let's focus on website design, because I think that that's like something that we love to do, something that we can do, something that's realistic that we can offer, and we would love to wake up to do this. So that's kind of how, you know, we start to put the pieces together by answering these questions.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, thank you everyone. And if there's any more questions that you have in terms of like, if you struggle with having a lot of ideas, if you haven't realized the power of the abundance of your ideas, if you're still maybe not in a place where you understand like, how do you take all these intrusive thoughts or all these ideas or all these notes that you've written throughout like life, how do you actually make them into action? Well, we have something for you, and we have something really special for you. But this is not necessarily a place where I want to just share, like, you know, do a little ad, but I know that it's a very important moment for me to do a little ad. So as you guys know, this podcast comes to you for free via the production of TakeThree Studio and Estefi Productions, from Productions. And they've sent me to do a little ad placement today to let you know that we have created our first digital product called Creative Vitamins for Too Many Ideas. Whenever you're being visited by that not so nice too many ideas goblin that tells you that you're not good enough, that you still haven't put things into action, that you're still working that job that you hate, that you're feeling like everything is so overwhelming, and that you just like can't make commitments, that you can't take those ideas and then put them into an action plan, that you don't even know how to start a meaningful to-do list, you don't even know how to get actionable, you don't know how to filter, you don't know how to prioritize, you don't know how to ask yourself what are the things you should ask yourself in order to get in bed with these ideas, you don't know how to get vulnerable with those ideas and with your dreams and your thoughts and your plans. Well, I hope that you click the link that I'm going to leave in the show notes, that I'm going to leave in the description of this episode, because the Creative Vitamins for Too Many Ideas has been made for you. Whether you're a solopreneur, a duopreneur, a small team of 2 or 3 people, and you're still learning these little tools, and you want a little more tools in your tool belt, and you want to open your mind and maybe learn from these other people's tips and practices and frameworks and make them your own, well, this is a space for you. And I want you to think about, it's kind of like having a 2-on-1 session with Meijun and Estefi from TakeThree Uni, and we're going to get really, 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 really focused on how do we bring your ideas into an actionable game plan. Because your ideas deserve that time. Your ideas deserve that, and you deserve to honor and know how to bring your ideas to life. And yeah, just like us, this is not about perfection. This is not about learning something that will make you be the most successful human in the world. But this is about learning other tools that will hopefully make you this journey through entrepreneurship and creativepreneurship just a little less lonely and a little bit more bearable. Keeping in mind, your body, your spirit, and how to not let yourself down and be your own boss in a way that you want to be your own boss. Not that scary boss you don't want around. So yeah, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for listening to this first of many ad placements, hopefully, for this growth of this podcast. And I appreciate you with all my heart. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time of putting it in your little ear holes and getting intimate with us. Thank you. This is a really safe space for us, and we can't wait to continue to bring you these little confessionals and maybe tell you some of our scary, funny client stories and other confessions. Because if there's one thing Meijun and I know how to do, is we know how to get vulnerable and how to get talking and curious. So thank you, Meijun, for being here. Thank you for going with the flow, even though you haven't been prepped fully. And thank you for coming back to this era of Take3 Talks. Hopefully I get to have you in many, many more episodes to come. And cheers to episode number 31. Thank you for, even though at the start you didn't believe in me, thank you for then changing your mind and believing in me and being my team member and being my number one audience.
It's a pleasure.
Even though you haven't listened to all the episodes.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for sharing this space with me.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. And I had a great time being vulnerable and talking about all the stuff that we talked about today. And looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
And I do believe in you.
Thank you.
Even though at first maybe it was a little scary for me, but I believe in all the things that you do and you take on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in you too. And again, guys, this is a safe space for all of us to have off-tangent conversations. And if there's anything that you want to learn and anything that you want us to talk about specifically, that you're super curious, let us know. Because we're here to be as open as we possibly can with our boundaries, of course. I hope you are able to take care of yourself, take care of others, and take care of business. And I'll see you in the next episode. I love you guys. Bye, friends. Thank you. Bye-bye.